Greetings, good morning. As the world continues to spin into chaos, it's important to know that you, above all else, as one, mind, body, spirit, and soul, have the ultimate authority. And I hear a lot of people talk to me about statutes, codes, provisions, and other things that really don't apply, and they're not quite getting it. When it comes to statutes, codes, city ordinances, these things apply to officials who have pledged an oath to it. They've generously become servants, right? And they're subservient to the cause, which is the pledge to the Constitution, the pledge to the state constitution, and they're bound by statutes, codes, provisions, city ordinances, and so forth, all right? Because they've made a choice to do so. They sign their life away to inherit a financial gain from it. So they've got a duty to perform. They're being paid as trustees, which they voluntarily donated their services to, right? Okay? So when it comes to you as an individual, as one, where's the international contract that binds you to the system that they impose upon you? All right? It says in 1 Timothy, and it's so important to understand the words that are in 1 Timothy. The law was not written for a righteous man. All right? We're talking about man's law. Okay? When we look at the higher ascension of the mind, we can unanimously say across the board that trespassing on somebody else is innately wrong. And everybody agrees with that. But unfortunately, some people don't have that mindset. All right? And because of their lack of faith in God, their belief and knowledge of Him, belief being the lack of knowledge, I guess, but knowledge in Him, and keeping thine statutes and keeping thy law, not codes. Remember the definition for codes, ladies and gentlemen. If something is coded, it means it has to be unscrambled. Somehow you have to learn the secret to unlock the message within it. That's not how law is. Now, in all countries, you can find the exclusive jurisdiction of equity, right and wrong. You will find the maxims of equity in every nation. But what you will never find is a nation with law without equity, period. You'll never find it. It doesn't exist. There are nations that don't have any laws. I can assure you that. But you will find no nations without the exclusive jurisdiction of equity, and you will find no nations without maxims of law. And I'm not talking about civil Roman equities, okay? I'm talking about the exclusive jurisdiction of equity with the American English equities, okay? We're very fortunate in America. Most countries, their people don't exhibit sovereignty. They don't understand what it is. And unfortunately, as we ascend of the mind, the government that be continues to placate to other men and women that sovereignty is somehow a bad thing, that it's a free man on the land, that it's a sovereign citizen thing. But watch how quick they change their tune when a judge sits on the bench and says, well, I've got qualified sovereign immunity. I don't see cops going, oh shit, here's the judge, he's a sovereign citizen. No, they don't do that. So why are they making sovereignty a topic of issue? All right, why are they ostracizing sovereignty? Because if you truly know who you are and you realize how much power you have, it ruins their illusion of authority. All right, we have the 12 the 12 presumptions and assumptions of law that they use against you. Remember, in the public venue, there are two things that are never tried: facts and law. Because if they brought facts and law into their realm, into the public side, it would absolutely decimate their system of fleecing the people. They operate under presumptions and assumptions, okay? But in the exclusive jurisdiction of equity, we deal with reality. We're not talking about Kris Kringle, Uncle Sam, the Easter Bunny, Tinkerbell, Rumpelstiltskin. We're not talking about any of that stuff anymore. Because in the exclusive jurisdiction of equity, we're talking about reality. All right? So let me give you an example. Running a stop sign at 3 in the morning, for example. Okay? Yes, there are no facts in dispute. I ran the stop sign. Okay, so you're guilty. Sure. And I have one question. Although I may have ran the stop sign, and that violates the letter of the law, we must look at the spirit of the law. Why was the law created in the first instance? Right? For public safety. Yes? Great. Now, with the spirit of the law, in order to enforce that law upon me, I must have put somebody in imminent danger. Where's the injured party? Who did I hurt? Who did I almost clip by running that stop sign at 3 in the morning when nobody was out? Now, I don't advocate that you do this, obviously, but I'm just making a poignant point. Although you may have violated the letter of the law, if you did not violate the spirit of the law, then you are not guilty of shit. Period. All right? And it took me a long time to figure this out because I could never understand why I would agree with some phony allegations being brought against me. But then we look in the Bible and it tells you. This is the first thing I did when I got to prison and I opened that Bible up. I just opened it up. I didn't even know where to start. And I was just like, let's just see what this is all about. And I opened it up and it said, agree with thine adversary quickly or the sheriff will come scoop you up, bring you before the judge, and you will go to jail. And I was like, okay, I'm listening. You got my attention. Holy shit. This is wild. You can't make this stuff up, guys. That's the first thing that the Bible showed me when I opened it. Agreeing with thy adversary quickly, or the sheriff will come, scoop you up, take you before the judge, and you'll go to jail. Now, there's a lot of value in that statement. So at that point, what do? You close the book, and you start at the beginning. I mean, that was the hidden message right there for me. And I threw my hands up and was like, okay, you got my attention. What do you want me to learn? Where do we start? Well, just like all literature, you start from the beginning, all right? And so I started at the beginning, and we go through Genesis, and you realize how much authority you actually have, all right? And it's not to lord over your fellow brothers and sisters, but to help them ascend of the mind. It's really simple, very simple. So in the exclusive jurisdiction of equity, when we talk about trust law, when we talk about trust, it's imperative that you understand that everything is a trust, okay? When you send your kids to school, that's a trust relationship. When you lend some tools to a friend, that's a trust relationship. When you go to Walmart to buy things, that's a trust relationship. And I can go on and on and on. When you go to a doctor, that's a trust relationship, okay? So when we talk about, Your Honor, do you disclaim the trust? These people are highly trained. The more I realize and the more I learn and the more I read, the less and less animosity I have towards any of them, because I'm starting to see the beautiful design of the system. And it's damn near perfect. Over thousands of years, they've mastered it. And it was only due to my own ignorance that built up the animosity towards them. I'm going to tell you right now, a judge is equivalent to a Navy SEAL, ladies and gentlemen. Their training is extensive, and they are badass. Now that I see the truth, now that I finally comprehend what they're really doing, they're not doing anything wrong. They're not breaking the law. You just don't know who you are. You don't comprehend it yet, and you will lose yourself chasing statutes and codes. You'll look like the little dog Spot chasing his tail in the middle of the living room floor. If you try to play the lawyering, deviling game, because that's what lawyers do, go look it up. You look up lawyer, it says specifically deviling, the practice of deviling. If you want to play in their arena and play with statutes, codes, city ordinance, and provisions, that's your business. You want to play with witchcraft and black magic, and you want to play with the word games and the trickery that they play, which is told to you in the Bible. Be wary of the forked tongue. Be cautious. Be leery. Pay attention. As soon as you can see what equity brings to the table and how powerful it is, you'll stop studying those statutes and codes because the law is already written on your heart. All right? Now, I've studied those statutes and codes. We can talk Title 26 all day long. We can go through Title 18. I can rip through it. I'm good like that. But I was missing the bigger picture. And it took some very powerful people who will always forever remain in the shadows to show me some things. They just lightly nudged me here and lightly nudged me there and said, you need to kind of, just look at this real quick, Derek. They didn't tell me what to think about it. They just said, go read it. This is the best thing they could have ever done for me. They didn't give me their opinions. They didn't try and force their thought process on me. They wanted me to do it on my own. And that's the best thing I can do for you guys. You have to do it on your own, because if you don't know it here and here, you won't prevail. So we've expressed kind of trust. Trust is a relationship of confidence, right? And like a husband and wife joint bank account, that's a relationship of confidence. We're trusting that you're not going to go spend everything that we've worked so hard together for to accomplish a common goal, which is sustainability. Yes. So there exists a relationship that is not a trust relationship. All right, and that's in the public realm, where nothing can be trusted in the public realm. Nothing. Because it's all about shenanigans. It's all about latches and blind adhesion contracts, and it's just a nasty realm. You really don't want to be in it. So you gotta get pure. You gotta get right with God within you. All right, and understand that. So on the private side, you have private decrees. You have a number of different things that you can execute on the private side. Let's see. When you plead the trust and your pleading is in equity, your pleading in equity supersedes all statutory pleadings. Period. Lock, stock, and barrel. Your pleading in equity supersedes all statutory proceedings or pleadings, okay? And that's very important to know. I want you to know this. There's not a lawyer in the world that can go into the exclusive jurisdiction of equity. They just can't do it. They don't have firsthand knowledge. Everything they say can be struck from the record. How would you like that? How often have you been to a hearing and heard a lawyer yip and yap and badmouth you, and I think, and I believe, and we suspect, and all this hypotheticated shit with a lack of knowledge, and they just throw it at the wall, and the judge seems to eat it all up, and every time you speak with conviction, they disregard you. Young man, quiet in this court. Young man, that will not be heard. Objection, overruled. How would you like to be in a venue where every time the lawyer opened his mouth, the judge said, overruled, overruled. And the next time they opened their mouth, they said, one more word out of you and I'll have you in contempt, counselor. Be quiet. Because it can't be heard in that realm. They can't be heard in that jurisdiction. All right? And every pleading that they put on a piece of paper is stricken from the record. Let's talk about private administrative process for a minute, because a lot of people are missing the big picture. When we do equity, when we're coming into operating in clean hands means that we're coming in pure, all right? Our intent is good. We're coming in with good reason, good conscience, and good faith. I want you to write those down. Good reason, good conscience, and good faith. All right? And we want to do everything that way. All the time. Not some of the time, but all the time. So you're going to do a notice of interest of private trust expression. And in the notice of interest of private trust expression, you're going to ask them if they disclaim the trust. It's a loaded question. It's a lot like asking if they're still beating their wife, all right? And the reason we ask that loaded question is because we don't want to give them a way out. Because as I expressed to you earlier, everything is a trust. The reason you're joining me this morning is because it's a trust relationship built on confidence, all right? That's why we're here. So everything is a trust. And it gets even deeper when you understand the financial banking side of it. This will really bewilder you. Car loans, credit card debts, student loans, mortgages, anything that has to do with the bank, ladies and gentlemen, is a trust relationship. But until you know who you are and where you get your power from and what has truly transpired in the history of this great land and furthermore throughout the world, this knowledge will benefit you not. You have to have a superior knowledge. You have to have an ascension of the mind, body, spirit, and soul. Must be there because they will see right through you. They spend just as much money on your Navy SEALs as they do on these judges. I don't want to see a single judge go to jail. Now that I know what I know, that I've been in the wrong venue this entire time, I know that as soon as we're on the right side of things, on the private side of the ledger, that what should be done shall be done. I know that in my heart. I know that to be true. Okay? So get rid of that disdain. Get rid of that discontent. Quit telling everybody that you're not being treated right, because you yourself have failed to take recognition of what's really going on. And it's not necessarily your fault because they've hidden this knowledge from everybody. And if it wasn't for the internet, I'm telling you right now, being in those law libraries is a nightmare. All you see is statutes, codes, provisions, UCC, this, that, and the other. They keep Gibson, Palmery, Joseph Story, Aristotle, and Bouvier's. They're way in the back of the law library, and if you don't know to ask for them, you'll never find them. I promise you that. See, these are the things that these highly articulate men and women who have been kind of guiding me along the way showed me. And I would have never found them had it not been for their good grace and blessing with it. And some of them are in the legal realm. And I'll admit, I've created a lot of disdain between me and the legal community. And some of them see the truth and tell me, keep going, Derek. You're doing the right damn thing. I'm behind you. I can't talk to you. I can't communicate by phone with you any longer. But I'm with you, buddy. You're right. Don't give up. Don't turn around. You're on the right path. It's the path less traveled. You're not going to have very many friends. Your family more than likely will disown you, but you are correct. Don't stop. You know how powerful that is, ladies and gentlemen? Because everybody else in the surrounding community chalked me off as one of those crazy loons, a crazy nut that just can't go along to get along. Got to create drama. Always want to start fights. Freedom isn't free, ladies and gentlemen. It never has been. You've been living in a damn illusion if you believe you're free. You are enslaved in more ways than one. And spiritually, you've been disconnected. And it's all done with intent. From the day you started grade school, they started programming your mind. The very definition of TV was television programming. You saw it on PBS as a kid. You saw it on other things. And then as the people started to get keen to what television programming is, they changed it to just TV. And nobody was the wiser. Here we are a few years later. Most people don't even know that it's called a television. And it was called television programming. MK Ultra, which has been declassified at this point through the CIA. What else can I point out to you, I guess? Let's see. There are some other things that are very interesting in the way of the education system. You know, when my mother grew up back in her day, they didn't do this thing called longhand arithmetic. And I struggled with it as a youngster. I said, Mom, I can get the answer in my head. I don't understand why they're failing me because I won't write it out longhand. It doesn't make any sense why I would have to do that. So she called down to the school. She said, look, he's getting the right answers. Why are you giving him Fs? Why are you failing him? Well, because he won't comply. Authority is what they were trying to ingrain in me. It had nothing to do with getting the right answer. Had everything to do with conforming to doing what you're told. Programming. All right? Now we look at the school system today, and what was it, a couple years back? They started this thing called Common Core. If little Susie can explain how 2 plus 2 is 8, little Susie gets an A. And then if little Tommy is out there and he's putting forth good effort, but the team doesn't win, well, that's okay, Tommy. You get a participation trophy. All right? We started providing rewards for less than satisfactory production. And that leads to a nation of youth growing up thinking they're entitled to something without putting forth effort. It's detrimental to a thriving free capitalist market. All right? I'm all for capitalism. I'm all for getting out there, creating jobs, helping your fellow man, and being productive. Because it even tells you in the good book that a man is worth his hire. All right? That a man should work, period. But in this day and age, it's such a conundrum to see how things have turned out. They're completely 180 degrees backwards. So back to the private administrative process. After we send our notice and opportunity, all right, we're giving them 30 days to respond. And let's just say for the time's sake, we're going to give them 10 days to respond. At the end of 10 days, I send a notice of fault with an opportunity to cure. Now, when I'm sending out my private administrative process, I'm not writing it to the low rent, low paid clerk or the low rent, low paid receptionist. This goes to the CEO, CFO, and comptroller. All right? Depending on what branch you're dealing with, who you're dealing with, car dealership, bank, student loans, whatever the case may be. All right? You always want to go to the man that handles the affairs or the woman that's in the position of handling those affairs. At the end of the notice of fault, opportunity to cure, if they still have not responded, remember, silence is acquiescence, confession and avoidance, right? Then we're going to do a notice of default, and we're going to default them. Now, you have the grounds to open up a court case in the exclusive jurisdiction of equity, ex parte, and sealed. Why? Because it's private in nature. You're not supposed to be waking up the public, and you're not supposed to be talking to the dead about the things that I speak to you of. Jesus brought us equity, ladies and gentlemen, and he explained it to us so beautifully. not only in his words, but his actions. And that's the very definition of equity. It's not only physically expressed and it's not only verbally expressed and written, but physically through your actions, it's displayed. Okay? And we seen that exhibited with the whore in Babylon while she was getting ready to be stoned to death. And Jesus said, "Let he who has not sinned cast the first stone." He was the only one able to throw a stone that day, and he didn't. That's equity. And yet, he gave himself to the cross for all of our sins. Now, whether or not she realized what he did at that time is irrelevant. Whether or not she changed her ways is irrelevant. It doesn't matter, because you're missing the picture. So often we go through life and we see things, but we don't recognize them. We don't comprehend them to a higher level. It's the beauty of equity, because at first you won't get it. You know, equity doesn't aid a volunteer. Well, I didn't volunteer for this, Derek. I'm an American. I didn't volunteer for this shit at all. I'm telling you. Your ignorance allowed you to volunteer because you're of unsound mind. You're a ward of the state. You're considered an incompetent. You think you're something you're not. You're using an all capital letter name, and you show up to court, and the presence of the body removes the air in the name. You're being summoned. You don't even understand what summonsing is. It's to conjure from the dead. You summons demons. That's what you do. You summons, when you're summoning things, you're summoning demons. What do you think they're doing as Baal priest? I want to see if the demons come. When you come true and correct as a man, and you ask them if they're going to disclaim the trust, and you grant the name to the court because it's theirs, not yours. I have a Christian appellation. I don't have an all-cap block letter name. It's not mine. He who creates his master, that looks like your business, not my business. My business is private. Your business is public. Those are your documents, not mine. And if they're abandoned documents, well, just the same, who's to say I want the burden of having them? But when you go in there not knowing who you are, you remove all errors by the presence of the body. They presume and assume on the public side that you are exactly what they're looking for. Principle in trust law: no trust can fail for want of a trustee. Bill in equity. Everybody says, Derek, oh, you're crazy. I read this statute and this code, and I read this thesis, and it took me to these statutes and these codes. I would rather use the 20 maxims of the exclusive jurisdiction of equity and learn those than spend the rest of my life in a law library trying to learn 66 million plus statutes, codes, provisions, city ordinances, and so forth. Wouldn't you? 20 maxims of equity, 10 laws. 10 laws. They're written in the 10 commandments. Real simple. Real simple. So you've got implied trust, you've got express trust, you've got constructive trust, right? Those are the three trusts we're kind of focusing on at the moment. So in a court situation, I grant my name to the court for future tort of my interest, because I know I'm not the thing that they're administering. And should I be caused harm, injury, damage, and loss, I'm entitled to a tort of my interest. When we talk about the exclusive jurisdiction of equity, we're talking about sealed and ex parte. It's private. It'll never be on a public record, ever. It's private, exclusively. It's not given out. What is not included is excluded. If I'm moving to the private side and I'm expressing the trust, or I'm asking them to disclaim the trust and they can't disclaim the trust, then they admit the trust, all right, through their omission, through their silence. And because of that, once it's presumed to be a trust, it must be treated as a trust. Oh, the beautiful glory of the heavenly creator. You know, man never created anything in their life, right? We're assemblers. We're free thinkers. We have free will. We've never created a damn thing. Everything that exists was manifested long before we were here. The tires that you have on your truck came from a rubber plant, God's creation. Man assembled it, no doubt. Man didn't create it. Nothing about that automobile was created by a man. Not a damn thing. All of it came from natural resources, and someday will return right back to the source. A lot of power in that statement if you understand what I'm telling you. Let's see. So when we're looking at the private side is always special. Special deposit, special circumstances, special equity, if you think about it. In the private side, it's non-commercial, non-statutory, non-UCC. All right? They're extraordinary writs. So let's talk about some extraordinary writs here real quick. Habeas corpus. It's an extraordinary writ. Your writ of mandamus is an extraordinary writ. But it's only extraordinary if you put the word on the paper that says it's extraordinary. If you just put writ of mandamus, it's just the same as you just as well be on the public side. You can't forget certain key elements or the door doesn't open. There's very specific words that you use to compel the exclusive jurisdiction of equity. So we've got extraordinary writ of habeas corpus, extraordinary writ of mandamus, extraordinary writ of quo warranto. Now, I am certain there are more. I just haven't stumbled across them yet. These are the ones that pertain to me, particularly in my life at a certain time. I'm always growing. I'm always ascending in the mind. There's always something new to learn. I don't know it all right? But because I can admit that I don't know it all, that keeps the drive in me going to keep learning more. Private American national citizen of the United States of America, all right, not of the United States, which is a corporation under Title 28, 3002, 15A, B, and C. Go look it up. All right? When we think about the exclusive jurisdiction of equity, and the ministerial administrator is there as a gatekeeper to test you, and they may make reference as to your rights versus the United States citizens' rights. And they may not say it like that, where they're talking United States citizen and American national. They may not say it like that. But the question becomes, why should my rights as a private American national be commingled with an enemy belligerent combatant of the United States? You see, I'm at peace. I'm a peacemaker. I'm not to be construed or misunderstood or interpreted as an enemy belligerent combatant of the United States, because I'm not. I know what they're doing. I see what they're doing. The system is very beautiful. if you know who you are. For the rest of the people that need to be told what to do, when to go to the bathroom, when to wake up in the morning because they don't have any drive, they're godless, they're heathens. That's what the system's been put in place for. Go read the book of Judges. In the Bible, it tells you why judges are there. Here I had all this built up animosity against them, and then I come to find out they're badass ninjas of God. Absolutely amazing. They use great discretion, but all the grace that they dish out comes from the glory of God, period. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. They have no grace to give. They have no grace to give. They administer grace on behalf of the Most High, the Heavenly Father, the Divine. But you have to know who you are first to get there. It's not been an easy path for me. If you go back and look at my videos from 3 or 4 years ago, oh, I was a hot, mad son of a gun. And even now, I still fall short of the glory. You know, I still fall short every day. I'm still over here cussing like a sailor. That right there, just dropping a cuss word brings me right out of equity. Everything I'm trying to teach is absolutely blasphemous when I can't control myself enough to control the cursing that comes out of my mouth. There's a reason they call it a curse word. You're putting a curse on people. You're not supposed to be cursing people. Just think about those things. It's time to become consciously aware of our acts and actions. All right? We can't hold these people accountable if our actions are inequitable by nature. So I'm not an enemy, combatant, belligerent, or rebel of the United States or to the United States. All right? I'm just an American national citizen. That's it. An Arizona State national, an Arizonian. Most of all, I'm a brother in Christ. The very blood that flows through my veins is the same blood that flowed through Christ's veins. And until you have that ascension of that mind and comprehend that Psalms 86:2, for ye are all gods. You have a father, you have a mother, and you have a dad. The Father being the Most High. You are a precious gift to your mom and dad from Him. And He bestowed them with a fiduciary duty as trustees to raise you the best that they could, to show you the light, the truth. That's what equity is. It's just the truth. It's the naked truth, full of humility, shame, but we can learn through these things. Humility is one of the best lessons you'll ever learn in life. It's the best lesson you'll ever learn. And anger can be the most powerful emotion. If you know how to harness it and channel it, it can be the greatest emotion with the most power, the most production you can ever get done, if you understand how to harness it. Let's look here. So again, show of cause, why my rights should be commingled as a private American national should be commingled with those rights of enemy, belligerents, and rebels in the public, or be it resolved, the matter shall proceed ex parte and sealed. 20 maxims of the exclusive jurisdiction of equity for litigation. Federal court, equity works in all courts. Okay, and the reason it works in all courts is because you can't have law without equity, period. In all the countries of the world, there is not one that has law without equity. There are plenty of countries that have no law, but they still have the basic foundations and principles of law, that of which being equity and maxims. I'm not talking about civil Roman maxims and equity. Those are not the same. And I'm not talking about legal maxims, because I got people sending me all kinds of maxims now. Oh, look at this maximum. That's a banking maximum. That's a legal maximum. It's not in the private. That's in the public. That's a completely different realm. And I'm only able to see these things after many years of extensive studying. and many, many, many good men and women showing me the ropes. Eric, there's a reason those maxims don't make any sense to you. Why is that? Because they're not the right ones. Those are legal maximums. That's civil Roman equity. That's martial law. That's dictatorship on that side. You want to go back to God, and you want the 20 maximums in the exclusive jurisdiction of equity. So when we look at the public side and the private side, we have to understand how they got where they got to. All right? They envy equity on the public side because equity is so brilliant. So what did they do? They mirrored it. They mimicked equity. Okay? Now, a lot of people say, well, Derek, common law, common law, common law. I used to think like that too, until I saw the light, until it was shown to me to be different. Okay? And I can now make the distinction as clear as a line in the sand at this point. I know what the exclusive jurisdiction of equity is and the private side, and I can absolutely affirm when you speak whether or not you know what you're doing. So on the public side, you'll have canon law, common law, civil Roman law, legal maxims, okay, maxims. You have equitable by characteristic, but it's not equity, all right? You have writs, you have discovery, you have all kinds of other stuff on the public. I could go on for days on the public side because literally they just keep making more shit up for whatever reason. Maybe it's to justify bigger government, more jobs, but they continually add to it. So on the public side, you have what's called law, and then you have auxiliary, and then you have concurrent. And that's where the line in the sand gets drawn. Because on the other side of the curtain is the exclusive jurisdiction of equity. Equity is beautiful. I'm about to show it to you. Let's see here. Scratch this and go to my prior notes. These were from a few months back. I'm going to show you equity. All right. So, in the exclusive jurisdiction of equity, it's private, it's in camera, it's a chancery setting before a chancellor, it's fair, just, and right, it's love, it's honor, it's trust, it's harmony, it's respect, dignity, good faith, good conscience, morality, grace, and non-statutory, unalienable rights, lawful, universal law, American English equity, Constitution for the United States of America, which is in fact a trust document. It's an equitable document. But you have to have the eyes to see it. It's still there. It's still in stone. It still works. No common law on the side of private. Fundamental rights, pure by nature, equitable by nature, inherent authority, dominion. You have the ability to own property, equitable by nature. You have man and woman on the private side, and on the public side, you have persons. All right? You have the 10 Commandments on the private side. You have trust indentures. Trust indentures are the law of the trust. Trust indentures are bad to the bone. Bad to the bone. Okay? And there's already a trust indenture in place for you. The everlasting covenant, been granted and promised to you as a gift from the Most High. Not only did he bless you with life, spirit, soul, free will. He says, if you keep my statutes and you keep my laws, I'll give you an everlasting covenant. A covenant is a protection. It's a promised protection. All right? Once you ascend to the mind, you will be protected. I can tell you this, you'll be protected. I see it exhibited every day. I interface with officers of the law. I get no animosity from them anymore. I think they're starting to ascend to the mind a little bit, whether they're being told by their superiors, hey, look, leave this guy alone. Whatever the case may be, it really doesn't matter to me because I know it's all the doings of the Most High. It's all the doings of our Lord and Savior and the Father. That's what it is. So it makes no difference to me if some superior is telling them, hey, that guy, he's good, he's cool, leave him out, leave him alone. Don't bother him, don't write him tickets, don't bring him to our courts. I'm good with that. I'm good with that. It took a whole lot of growing to get there, but I'm good with it. The thing is, I don't want to see my fellow brothers and sisters become belligerent with these people to the point where they get hurt, because it's not necessary. It's about ascending of the mind together and creating a better environment for everybody together. So when we're on the public side, we speak about concurrent, auxiliary, and law. Okay? It simulates equity, but it is not equity. Okay? You have statutes, codes, ordinances. You have attachments, discovery, and writs, just like you do in equity. So there's where it mirrors it. It resembles it. But remember, dissimilar things should not be joined, and similar is not same. There's some more maxims for you. All right? And maxims, when you look at them, maxims, they've stood the test of time. They can't be challenged. They are facts set in stone, and most of them come from biblical references, the Word of God. Roman equity, legal maximums, privileges. You've got unalienable rights on the private side and privileges on the public side. Equitable by characteristic, you will see on the public side. It means it's not equitable, but it simulates equity. You got Roman equity, legal maxims, legal by nature, military courts, which is what the public side is. Article 1, Section 2, I think it is what they are. Article 1 courts. You're a tenant, you're a renter, and chattel on the public side. You've got UCC on the public side. You got Roman equity on the public side. And the Constitution cannot be seen. Now, I've been in a court setting a time or two, believe that or not. And I brought up the Constitution. I've had them look me dead in the eye and go, the Constitution doesn't apply in this courtroom, and if you say it one more time, you're in contempt of court. And I thought, well, I'm about to go out to the truck and grab a rope and string you up, you silly bastard. This country was built on American pride and with God and by people who were tired of tyrants like you. How dare you tell me that this Constitution doesn't apply in this setting? After having an ascension of the mind, I realized really quick why it doesn't. I'm not in that venue. I'm not in the venue where the Constitution applies. Don't get me wrong, the Constitution's still there, but not in the venue that you're in. There's something important to think about. Contract makes the law, and equity follows the law. All right? And if you've entered into a contract, and I want to tell you this, ignorance of the law excuses no man. And I thought to myself as I'm reading all these statutes and codes, I'm like, how could anybody possibly know all this? It's not possible. It's an impossibility. But yet we're all responsible for knowing the law. And I start to look at it and evaluate it, and then it dawns on me. I had an epiphany one day. I called my buddy, who will always forever remain in the dark. He doesn't want to be ever mentioned, and I never will. And he said, you're starting to get it now. You're starting to see it. He said, what are you talking about, Derek? I said, how? It's an impossibility for anybody to know the law. And things that are impossible can't be done. Necessity kicks in, right? Necessity trumps all law. And because I can't possibly know all this stuff, and there's no lawyer that could ever know all this stuff, it's an impossibility. And he goes, you're right. So what do you want? What are you looking for from me? You want an answer from me? What do you want? And I said, well, I wanted to run this by you. If it's an impossibility, then I'm the one that creates the law. And the United States is technically lawless. He just got dead silent on the other side of the phone. Dead silent. He goes, you're starting to figure it out now. I said, so the reason that all men are responsible for knowing the law is we are all responsible for knowing the contracts we enter into, because contract makes the law and equity follows the law. And he goes, all right, you have a nice day. And he hung up. That was my affirmation that I was starting to pick it up, that I was starting to see the truth. I hope this video helps you out. I'm on my way to another county to see if I can get a guy out of jail with an extraordinary writ of habeas corpus. My first one I've ever executed. So wish me luck. God be with you all, and we'll see you soon.